The expensive champagne flowed freely at Sterling Enterprises' annual executive party. But I nursed my sparkling water, watching the scene unfold from my corner of the grand ballroom. My $50 phone sat on the table beside me, its scratched case a stark contrast to the glittering chandeliers and designer outfits surrounding me. Is that really a technophone? Madison Williams, the regional manager's wife, didn't even try to hide her disdain as she peered at my device. I didn't even know they still made those. Her perfectly manicured hand clutched the latest iPhone, its designer case probably worth more than my entire phone. I smiled politely, used to these reactions. It makes calls and sends texts. That's all I need. But darling, Madison's voice dripped with false concern, loud enough to attract attention from nearby tables. How do you even take proper photos? The camera must be dreadful. Before I could respond, James Sterling Jr., the CEO's son and heir apparent to Sterling Enterprises, sauntered over, his signature smirk firmly in place. Mother was right, letting the entire staff attend these events really has lowered the tone. He picked up my phone, turning it over with 2 fingers as if it might contaminate him. What department are you from again? Mailroom? Actually, I'm new, I replied calmly, taking my phone back. Just started this week. Well, Madison jumped in, clearly delighted to have an audience gathering. Perhaps after a few paychecks, you can upgrade to something more appropriate for our company's image. Though with entry-level salaries these days, she trailed off with a theatrical sigh. Speaking of image, James added, straightening his custom-made suit. The board meeting tomorrow will determine the company's new direction. Big changes coming. He winked at Madison. Some people might want to start updating their resumes and their phones. I checked my cheap phone's screen, 7:58 p.m. Perfect timing. The board meeting was actually moved to next week. I commented casually, taking a sip of water. James laughed loudly, drawing even more attention. Sweetheart, I think I would know about any changes to the board meeting. I am the CEO's son. Oh yes, James Sterling Jr. I smiled, standing up as I heard familiar footsteps approaching. Which makes me Sarah Sterling. The room fell silent as my father, James Sterling Sr., CEO of Sterling Enterprises, walked in, his commanding presence drawing all eyes. I see you've all met my daughter. Madison's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. James Jr., my half-brother who'd never bothered to attend any family events or look at photos of his father's new family, turned an interesting shade of pale. Since we're all here, Dad continued, his voice carrying across the now silent ballroom, I'd like to make an announcement I'll be officially making at next week's board meeting. After 30 years as CEO, I'm stepping down. James Jr.'s smirk started to return. And I'm proud to announce that after completing her MBA at Harvard and spending the past 5 years turning around our international divisions under a different name, my daughter Sarah will be taking over as CEO, effective immediately. The silence was deafening. I could practically hear Madison's jaw hit the floor. But James stammered, I'm your son. The hair. I've been working here for 3 years, Dad cut in smoothly, during which time you've spent more money on designer suits than you've brought in through deals. Meanwhile, Sarah has increased our international profits by 300%, while living on an entry-level salary and using a basic phone because she wanted to understand every level of our business operations. I pulled up my company performance charts on my trusty $50 phone, projecting them onto the ballroom's presentation screen. Actually, it's 324% profit increase. Would anyone like to see the quarterly breakdowns? The next hour was a blur of executives who'd ignored me all evening suddenly discovering they'd always wanted to discuss international market strategies. Madison's attempts to apologize were almost as entertaining as watching James Jr. try to explain to his friends why he'd never mentioned having a sister. But the real work was just beginning. I'd spent 5 years learning every aspect of our business, from the mailroom up. I'd seen how middle management like Madison's husband treated staff when they thought no one important was watching. I'd experienced firsthand the toxic culture my half-brother and his friends had created in upper management. And now, as CEO, I had the power to change it all. My $50 phone buzzed with a text from Dad. Ready for phase 2. I smiled, thinking of the restructuring plans already prepared on my laptop. James Jr. had been right about one thing. Big changes were coming to Sterling Enterprises. Just not the ones he'd expected. The party wound down around midnight. But I stayed behind, sitting in what would soon be my office, looking out over the city lights. The same view James Jr. had probably imagined would be his. My cheap phone sat on the expensive desk, a deliberate reminder of where I'd started and why. The door opened and closed quietly. "Your mother would be proud," Dad said, sitting down across from me. She always said success wasn't about having the most expensive things, but about understanding the value of everything. I thought of my late mother, who taught me that true worth wasn't found in designer labels or latest gadgets. "The board meeting next week will be interesting," Dad finished, smiling. "Especially when they see the evidence you've gathered about certain executives' creative accounting practices." My phone buzzed again. An email from HR confirming receipt of my restructuring plans. Phase 2 would start tomorrow, bright and early. Madison's husband had been skimming from employee pension funds. James Jr. had been inflating his expense accounts and taking kickbacks from suppliers. And I had documentation of all of it, gathered methodically over 5 years while they were too busy judging my phone to notice what I was doing with it. "Get some rest," Dad advised, heading for the door. "Tomorrow's going to be a long day." I picked up my $50 phone, checking the secure folder containing 5 years' worth of evidence. Yes, I agreed. It certainly is. For some executives at Sterling Enterprises, tomorrow would be their longest day ever. And I'd record it all on my cheap phone. The next morning, I arrived at Sterling Enterprises at exactly 7 a.m., my $50 phone and 5 years of evidence securely in hand. The security guard did a double take when I used the executive elevator. Apparently, James Jr. had sent a company-wide email at 3 a.m. claiming I was an imposter. "Ms. Sterling," my new executive assistant, Thomas, greeted me. He'd been with the company for 20 years and had seen everything. "Mr. James Jr. is waiting in your office with his lawyer." "Perfect," I smiled, pulling up a specific folder on my phone. "Please call security and have them ready." James Jr. sprawled in my chair, feet on my desk, his lawyer standing nervously beside him. "Listen, sis," he sneered at the word. "Let's make this easy. You walk away now, keep whatever Dad promised you, and we'll forget about your little stunt last night." I set my phone on the desk, camera facing him. "You mean like how you forgot about the Miller contract?" His feet dropped from the desk. "What?" "The Miller contract. 3 months ago, you took a kickback of $500,000 to award it to your friend's company instead of the more qualified bidder." I played the recording from my phone. James Jr.'s own voice discussing the deal in what he thought was a private conversation. "You can't," his lawyer started. "Oh, but I can. You see, while everyone was busy mocking my cheap phone, they never noticed it recording their conversations. Legal in this state with one-party consent, by the way." I turned to the lawyer. "You might want to stay for this next part. It concerns your billing practices, too." Security arrived as James Jr. lunged for my phone. "This is all lies. I'll sue." "Actually," I pressed play again. "Here's you admitting to embezzlement last Christmas. And here's your conversation with Madison's husband about the pension fund scheme. The FBI is very interested in that one." The lawyer quietly gathered his things and left. By 9 a.m., Madison's husband had been escorted from the building, his computer seized by corporate security. By 10 a.m., 3 more executives had resigned rather than face audit findings. James Jr. was still yelling about lawsuits when security removed him from the premises. "Your brother's friends are all resigning," Thomas reported, bringing in more documentation. "And Madison is in the lobby, insisting she needs to speak with you." I checked my phone's calendar. The board meets in an hour. Let's make her wait. The board meeting was everything I prepared for. 5 years of evidence meticulously gathered and organized. Every questionable deal, every misused fund, every instance of harassment or discrimination I'd witnessed while working entry-level jobs throughout the company. "Ms. Sterling," one board member sputtered, "this is unprecedented." "No," I corrected. "What's unprecedented is how long this corruption was allowed to continue. This company was built on innovation and integrity. Today, we return to those values." My phone buzzed. A message from Dad. "Your mother would be proud." By evening, Sterling Enterprises had a new organizational structure. Qualified employees who'd been overlooked due to office politics were being promoted. The pension funds were being audited and restored. And my brother's old office was being converted into an employee daycare center. Madison finally caught me as I was leaving. Her designer outfit was wrinkled, her perfect makeup smeared. "Sarah, please, you have to understand. We never knew." "That's exactly the problem," I interrupted. "You never bothered to know anything about people you thought were beneath you. How's that working out?" "My husband. The pension funds. Please, we can work something out." I held up my cheap phone. "Everything's already worked out. It's all documented right here on my embarrassing little phone. The authorities have copies." I stepped into my car, then paused. "Oh, again, Madison. I'm keeping the phone. It reminds me never to judge someone by appearances." The next few months transformed Sterling Enterprises. Employee satisfaction skyrocketed. Productivity increased. Even our stock price jumped when the market realized how much dead weight we cut. James Jr. tried to contest Dad's decision, but it's hard to claim rightful inheritance when you're under federal investigation for fraud. Last I heard, he was looking for work, but his reputation preceded him. Madison's husband took a plea deal. She sold her designer handbags to pay for his legal fees and moved in with her sister in Ohio. 1 year later, I sat in my office, looking at the same view I contemplated the night of the party. My $50 phone sat in a frame on my desk, retired but preserved as a reminder. Beside it stood a photo of my mother, smiling proudly. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. "Miss Sterling, the new employee orientation is starting." I smiled, picking up my new phone, still not the most expensive model, but chosen for its functionality rather than status. "Thank you, Thomas. Let's go welcome them to the new Sterling Enterprises." The orientation room was full of eager faces. I took my place at the podium, my simple phone recording for training purposes, just like its predecessor had done. "Welcome to Sterling Enterprises," I began. "Let me tell you a story about a $50 phone and what it taught me about true value. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just about getting even. Sometimes it's about making sure no one else has to experience what you did. Sometimes it's about changing an entire culture, one recorded conversation at a time. And sometimes it's about keeping your cheap phone as a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and the most powerful weapon isn't the most expensive one. It's the one people underestimate."
The marble foyer of Sterling Manor echoed with my brother Michael's condescending laugh as he watched me drag my suitcase across the floor. The mansion, once the crown jewel of our family's legacy, now showed subtle signs of decay, hairline cracks in the ceiling, worn carpet on the grand staircase, dulled crystal in the chandeliers. "The maids' quarters are upstairs," Michael smirked, adjusting his Rolex. "Though honestly, it's too good for someone who couldn't even keep Dad's investment firm running." I kept my expression neutral, though my phone buzzed knowingly in my pocket. "The guest room is fine, Michael." "Guest room?" He laughed. No. We need those for actual important people. You get the old maid's quarters. Mom's orders." Speaking of Mom, Victoria Sterling swept into the foyer in her fading designer dress, pearls gleaming against her neck. "Amanda darling, you're late. The bank meeting is in an hour." "The bus was delayed," I said, knowing how the words would sting them. "A bus." Michael's wife Jessica appeared, designer heels clicking on marble. "Oh, how quaint. Remember when you used to run the investment division, Amanda? Town cars, private jets." She smiled sweetly. "Before you lost everything. They only knew." My phone buzzed again. Probably another update from my lawyer about the property transfer. The irony of their disdain wasn't lost on me. "The bank's threatening foreclosure," Mom sighed, studying her manicure. "After 30 years we might lose Sterling Manor. No thanks to your disastrous decisions with the company." What they didn't know, what they'd never bothered to investigate, was that those disastrous decisions had been carefully orchestrated. Every failed investment, every lost client had been quietly transferred to my new firm, built right under their noses. "Such a shame," Michael continued. "Dad would be so disappointed. His golden child reduced to taking the bus." I climbed the servants' staircase to the tiny room they'd assigned me, its window overlooking the once immaculate gardens. My phone lit up with the message I'd been waiting for: "Property transfer complete. Sterling Manor is now officially yours through Shell Corporation B. Bank meeting cancelled." The dust in the room didn't bother me. By tomorrow everything would change. I'd spent 5 years building my empire in secret, watching them run Dad's legacy into the ground with their extravagance and arrogance. Now, as they faced bankruptcy, they had no idea they were standing in my house. A knock at the door. "Amanda." Mom called out. "The bank wants all family members present. Do try to look presentable, if that's still possible in your situation." "I'll be right down," I replied, changing into a simple blazer and skirt. No designer labels, no flashy jewelry. Nothing to hint at the truth. My phone buzzed one final time. All paperwork filed. "You are now their landlord." I smiled, tucking the phone away. Let them enjoy their superiority for a few more hours. Tomorrow they'd learn what real power looks like. Another text flashed on my screen from my executive assistant. "Forbes interview confirmed for tomorrow. Your net worth evaluation, $2.8 billion. I heard the mansion's front door open, followed by voices. The bank representatives had arrived early. "Perfect. Amanda." Mom's voice carried up the stairs. "Get down here. And please tell me you have something better to wear than that." I took one last look around the dusty room, remembering how they'd stripped me of my company office 5 years ago. "Time to go home," Michael had sneered then, dumping my personal items in a cardboard box. Let the real business people handle things. The real business people who'd driven Dad's company into the ground with their parties, their vanity projects, and their complete lack of financial sense. Who'd mortgaged this mansion 3 times over to maintain their lifestyle. Walking down the servants' stairs, I passed the family photos. Mom and Dad at charity galas, Michael at his graduation, the day he saved the company by pushing me out. My pictures had been removed years ago. In the grand living room, 2 bank representatives sat stiffly on antique furniture. Michael paced, his confident facade cracking. Mom's hands shook as she poured tea into Wedgwood cups that would soon be mine. "Ah, Amanda," the senior bank representative, Mr. Harrison, nodded at me. "Perhaps you should stay for this discussion. It concerns the entire family." "She's not really involved anymore," Michael cut in quickly. "Just visiting. Temporarily." My phone buzzed again. "Private security team in position. Moving trucks ready for tomorrow." "Actually," I said quietly, taking a seat, "I think I should definitely stay for this." Mom shot me a warning look. "Amanda, dear, surely you have job hunting to do?" I smiled, thinking of my corner office in the city's tallest skyscraper. "No, Mom. I think I'm exactly where I need to be." The grandfather clock struck 3. In exactly 24 hours, they'd learn what I'd done with Dad's failed investment strategies. How I'd built an empire while they weren't watching. And most importantly, how I now owned every square inch of the roof over their heads. "As you know," Mr. Harrison began, adjusting his tie, "Sterling Manor's 3rd mortgage payment is significantly overdue. The bank has no choice but to—" "One moment," interrupted a crisp voice from the doorway. My attorney, Sarah Chin, strode in, briefcase in hand. "I believe this meeting is unnecessary." Michael jumped up. "Who are you? This is a private family matter." Sarah Chin, representing the new owner of Sterling Manor. She placed her briefcase on the antique coffee table Mom always bragged about. "All mortgage obligations have been satisfied." Mom's teacup clattered against its saucer. "New owner." I watched their faces as Sarah withdrew the documents. 5 years of their condescension, their mockery, their superiority, all about to crumble. "The property was purchased by Phoenix Global Investments," Sarah continued. "All existing liens have been cleared." "Phoenix Global?" Michael laughed nervously. "Never heard of them." "You wouldn't have," I said quietly, standing up. "We prefer to operate discreetly." The room fell silent. Mom's face went pale as understanding dawned. "No," Michael whispered. "You lost everything. The company lost." I smiled, taking the documents from Sarah. "I didn't lose anything, Michael. I built something better. Those clients you thought disappeared? They followed me. Those failed investments? They flourished under a different name." Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. "Miss Sterling has indeed satisfied all outstanding debts on the property. The mansion legally belongs to her corporation now. But where did you get that kind of money?" Mom stammered. I nodded to Sarah, who opened her laptop. The screen displayed Phoenix Global's portfolio: luxury properties across 3 continents, technology ventures, sustainable energy projects. Total value, $2.8 billion. Remember Dad's outdated investment strategies? I asked, watching Michael sink into his chair. The ones you called worthless when you took over? I used them. Built on them. While you were mortgaging this house to buy boats and fund vanity projects, I was creating an empire. Jessica, who'd been unusually quiet, found her voice. So what happens now? Now. I pressed a button on my phone. The front door opened and my executive team walked in. Now we discuss your tenancy agreements. Tenancy? Michael exploded. This is our home. Was your home, I corrected. You'll be allowed to stay, with conditions. No more parties. No more wasteful spending. You'll maintain regular employment and pay fair market rent. Mom's hands trembled. You can't be serious. The servants' quarters are quite comfortable, I said, echoing their earlier words. Though you might prefer the efficiency apartments I've arranged in the city. Your choice. Your office is ready upstairs, Miss Sterling, my assistant announced, entering with a team of contractors. We can begin renovations immediately. I watched my family's faces as their world shifted. The antique furniture they'd used to impress guests, the artwork they'd bragged about, the crystal they'd lorded over others. All mine now. You have 24 hours to decide, I said, gathering my papers. Stay and follow the new rules, or leave with your personal belongings only. Everything else belongs to Phoenix Global now. Amanda, Mom whispered, we're your family. Family. I turned back. Family doesn't banish members to servants' quarters. Family doesn't mock struggle or celebrate failure. You stopped being family the day you chose status over substance. The contractors began their measurements as I climbed the main staircase. No more servants' stairs for me. Oh, and Michael, that Rolex you're wearing? Dad gave that to me when I made my first million. I'll expect it back by morning. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the mansion's freshly cleaned windows. Construction crews moved efficiently through the halls, removing the gaudy decorations my family had added over the years. In the foyer, Michael's prized bronze stallion statue was being carefully crated. Its sale would fund new computers for the charitable foundation I was establishing. Mom appeared in her silk robe, looking lost without her usual morning mimosa. The staff, they won't serve breakfast. The staff works for me now, I replied, reviewing renovation plans with my project manager. And they're busy with actual work, not catering to your whims. Jessica stumbled down the stairs, mascara smeared. Our closets are empty. Designer items have been inventoried and will be auctioned, my assistant explained crisply. The proceeds will cover your outstanding debts to various boutiques. Michael emerged last, his hand bare where the Rolex had been. This is cruel, Amanda. We're your family. I set down my tablet. Cruel? Let's talk about cruelty, shall we? I gestured for them to follow me into what was once Dad's study, now my office. The family portraits had been replaced with maps showing Phoenix Global's worldwide investments. 5 years ago you held an emergency board meeting while I was at Dad's funeral, I said, taking the seat behind his desk. You convinced the board I was too emotional to lead. Remember that, Michael? He shifted uncomfortably. It was business. No, it was betrayal. Mom, you seconded his motion. Said I lacked the necessary qualities to run a company. We were trying to protect the family legacy, she protested weakly. The legacy you mortgaged to buy yachts and fund failed passion projects? I pulled up their spending records. 3 boats, 2 failed restaurants, a record label and a designer clothing line, all bankrupted within 4 years. Jessica stepped forward. We can challenge this legally. Feel free, I smiled. My legal team would love to examine the creative accounting you've been using to hide your tax evasion. That silenced them. Here are your options, I continued, distributing folders. Option 1. 3-bedroom apartments in the city, reasonable rent and entry-level positions in subsidiary companies, actual work, not vanity titles. Option 2. Stay here in the renovated East Wing, following strict financial oversight and mandatory financial management training. And if we refuse? Michael challenged. Then you leave with nothing but personal items. Your credit's ruined, your reputations are shattered, and those insider trading investigations you thought you buried? They're still very much alive. Mom sank into a chair. How did we not see this coming? Because you saw what you wanted to see, I answered. A failure. A disappointment. Never wondering why Dad's most loyal clients suddenly disappeared, or where that mysterious new investment firm came from. My phone buzzed. The Forbes photographer had arrived for the interview. You have 1 hour to decide. The press will be here soon to cover Phoenix Global's acquisition of the Sterling properties and the launch of our charitable foundation. Foundation. Mom perked up. I have experience running. This foundation will actually help people, I cut in. No galas, no society photos, just real work making real change. Looking at them now, stripped of their designer armor, their social status, their false superiority, I felt no satisfaction, only a tired relief that justice had finally been served. 1 hour, I reminded them, standing. Choose wisely. When Michael, Dad's antique fountain pen that you inherited? It's in my desk drawer now, where it always belonged. As I left them there, surrounded by the evidence of their failures and the proof of my success, I heard Mom start to cry. But for the first time in 5 years, her tears held no power over me. The mansion would be transformed into something meaningful. A training center, a technology hub, a place where success was measured by impact, not appearance. And my family? They'd learn to live in the real world, where actions have consequences and true worth isn't measured in designer labels. It was time for the Sterlings to earn their name.